Later, the doctor came back in and said, "Now I have to tell you something. I don't understand what's going on here at all, but your son, that's your son. I see the results. He had very bad eyes. He has healthy eyes." And then my son said, "Aunt Sophie did that." He looks at me, "Who?"
Professor Sofi. Who is Professor Sofi? Now an apparently God-blessed healer, with countless honors, orders, medals, and titles that he has been awarded over the past 35 years. These awards have one thing in common. They were awarded to Professor Sofi for her work as a healer. Many media outlets in Germany and abroad report on the healing powers of Mrs. Sofi. Hundreds of healed people, journalists share their experiences, including cancer patients, blind patients, women and men with serious accident consequences. Various TV formats invite you to learn more about her healing
whether it's
method.
cancer, stomach ulcers, or osteoporosis. Supposedly there's hardly a disease she can't help with.
Sofi Tachalov is a spiritual healer and has helped countless people. Jasmine Spatara had breast cancer. The doctors had discovered it. Today the tumor is gone.
The woman who practices here can tackle any disease. No prescription pad pills or injections.
A name in Russia, a name in Holland, a name in all of Europe, one must now say.
Do you see any boundaries where you
We
can
wish
help?
for a nice
Often
blood.
doctors are at a loss, but Sofi never is, because her power comes from God and is therefore limitless.
And that was the best path we ever took. Whenever that happens, we know to go straight to Sofi. I felt something I can't feel in my everyday life. I simply can't put into words what happened there. If someone can help me, then that's it. What I will never forget, for me it was the rescue.
I had shingles. Ich habe Zoster on my eye and head. And without a diagnosis, I went to Sofi because I was mistreated by the doctors. I can only, every day, I thank God and Sofi that I can see that my head works without medication and without anything. It's just a miracle.
I was very, very ill. I had depression. I was in a lot of pain. I had chronic pain all over for 21 years on my body. The doctor said I was heading towards a wheelchair. I had cancer. I weighed 43 kilograms. Conventional medicine has basically more or less ruined me. The pills is getting worse and worse. I need another way, but I didn't know which one. My son stood by my bed with tears in his eyes and said, "Mom, we're going there now." For what? We're going there, to Aunt Sophie. And because he had tears in his eyes, I was so touched and thought, the little one is so worried. And Mum and we came to Venlo. In this hall there were many sick people, but it was a peaceful silence. Suddenly I noticed that my body, I didn't notice it anymore. That restlessness was gone, that stabbing was gone, it was all gone. Yes.
I died in 1982. I had bladder cancer for 8 years. I don't know, operated about 20 times or so. It wasn't a bloody surgery. It's very uncomfortable. It goes through the hand. At some point I said, I've had enough. I don't want this anymore. I don't want this life anymore. This is not a life. I'd rather die or live. Dear God, please decide for me. I don't go to the doctor anymore. You can't predict that. This can't go on. I don't know how long it has been lurking. I just think it was unlikely and incomparable. And this feeling continued when she asked me, "Do you think I can help you now?" "Yes," I said. "You can do more."
Now
I'm quite
take
sure
it
of that.
out.
Just
Yes.
keep it up now.
Enjoy your meal.
I was almost blind. I had a double attack. My left arm was numb, my face as well. We are paralyzed by Sofi's help actually. I had another examination 2 months later. We did another MRI. During the examination they look for changes in an MS patient. We don't know how many lesions, how many inflammations are in the brain and in the spinal cord. For me it was a total of 14 before. I have now actually managed to reduce it to 1. Also my cerebrospinal fluid, that is the cerebrospinal fluid that is in the line. There are no signs of inflammation, and that was something that also somewhat shocked my doctor, who herself says I am a conventional doctor. I can't quite understand what's happening right now, but ultimately it doesn't matter what she does. Keep it up, keep it up.
I have a floating O-type it's a bone marrow blood plasma cancer. It's incurable. It's a very aggressive type. My levels have more than halved. Cancer markers for that. We are very, very grateful to Sofi. We have told our friends about it, who were just as amazed and surprised as we were. They were here too. My friend hasn't needed an asthma inhaler since then. She no longer takes painkillers. She had taken them for over 10 years before. Her husband has an autoimmune disease causing discomfort in his mouth. He has finally had warm feet again after many years and is very happy about it. And you too will continue to visit Sofi. Thank you, Sofi.
We were very, very sick, my husband and I. I had back problems for years. Intervertebral disc, cortisone, got everything possible. It didn't get better and better. We tried all the ways. We wanted to go to a specialized clinic in Bad Werdem, and I had a very serious operation ahead of me. And the doctor also told me, I have to tell you, it's a very serious surgery. Most women come back later and say, if I had known that, I wouldn't have let it happen. We went to Sofi's a couple of times. We didn't need a doctor anymore. And so I was spared that because I was with Mrs. Sofi. I never had surgery on my back. Only with God's strength, trust in God and on so much. And that was our best path in life. And whenever we eat something, we go there. Drinking and everything is fine again.
So here saw as many experiences like people who couldn't walk suddenly stand up and slowly take steps. People who could not see, who after several sessions could see again. People who nicotine addiction suffered, suddenly quit smoking because they didn't like it anymore. There were already many experiences with something like that. So I really thank you to Sofi because she saved my life. I can only recommend to everyone, if they have anything, to visit Sofi because it works. There is more between heaven and earth than what the doctors
My husband has the cancer. The first time he got chemo, he had non-Hodgkin, 50. The second one then received radiation therapy, and then it relapsed after 5 years. And then the doctor said they could do nothing more for my husband. My brother-in-law read about Sofi in the magazine. Then we were often here. It got worse, and that day Helmut felt really bad. It was already under the arm, already. So thick it went to his lungs and he had it throughout his body. I called Sofi. I said, Sofi, now I'm scared. He looks really bad. He's not doing well. Then Kathrita said, oh, something is coming now. My husband lay down for maybe 1 hour. Then he got up. Then he went to our washroom, opened the door and threw up. Then he took a shower, and after the shower it stayed like a balloon that was empty, and that was all gone. Then I called Sofi, said, Rita, that's what I've been waiting for. Said, now you wait 6 weeks and then you go to the doctor. Then we had been to our doctor. Then there was a tube MRI and quite a bit of blood was taken, all from the mouth down. And there were 3 doctors in there. And the one doctor has been with us all along. That was Dr. Lemke. So far, all the time, where were you all? What did you get? Radiation or chemotherapy? And we said neither. We were with a spiritual healer in Venice. The doctor slammed the door, opened her mouth and didn't press anymore. And Dr. Lunt, who has accompanied us all these years, he has waited for us like this. I thought I can't even express how happy I am. That was the story about my husband.
I've had knee problems for several years, a syndrome in the knees, patellar tip syndrome, and also my legs are of different lengths. The problem is that my pelvis is crooked, as is my spine, and one shoulder is higher than the other. I've already seen several doctors who said about my knees but I cancelled it because I don't want to have surgery on my knees. Yesterday, before the session, my right leg was up here the whole time, like that the whole time. I could put down my left one the whole time, and after the session it was really like that I could lay them both flat. I feel much, much better since I got up yesterday. It felt so uncomfortable before, totally different. Subtitles by ZDF for Funk 2017.
Nonsense.
I am grateful that I was healed. I want to advise everyone let Sophie treat you.
In 2006, my little nephew was born prematurely. In the 29th week, 600 grams were gained and the doctors had no hope. And then they said if he survives, then it will be good. Indeed, a disabled child, so the issue is taken very seriously. Will probably never be able to breathe independently the entire time. By now, Kona is 17 years old, has been accompanied by Mrs. Sofi. He is now a big, strong young man, always getting the next driver's license, going to school. Recently, he called proudly to say he was there. He became the class representative, and this is thanks to her support. He was supposed to be operated on at the age of 4 because he was in pain. Could not. His esophagus did not work. Everything was too opifuk. That's what my sister said. Before we actually go into the operating room, I take a we are going to Venlo. After this 1 week, the surgery had to be cancelled because Jonathan did not vomit anymore. He had everything he ate. He grew strong and even had to take a weight loss course later.
I got severe depression. Panic. So bad. I got really scared to death. Then I was so desperate that I prayed like crazy at night. And then suddenly saw a red flower that I couldn't even identify as such. I thought, now you're going completely crazy. Now comes to the honorary institution. Now it's all over. And suddenly I'm reading Mrs. Sofi's words. 7 according to a patient will soon tell me that he saw a pair of pants. That he noticed me. That he got in touch with her. And then I was there.
I have to go there.
Letters that I saw there at night. I'm heading there now. And went into these panic attacks with severe depression. Had driven here with me, attended the first session in the evening. I had to cry terribly, as if everything was pouring out of me. I then spent a week here, which made me feel incredibly good. What impressed me incredibly was that the next day, morning, how free did I feel? I am completely drained. It was an incredible state. All fears were gone. I can't put it any other way. It was a miracle for me, something that still impresses me today and that I will never forget. For me, it was salvation, and that is now 15 years. Incredible life experience.
I have had ataxia for about 5.5 years, which means a walking disability. So for the past 5.5 years, I have been had many doctor visits, did rehab, neurologists examined me. I didn't know what to do anymore. And then I had to go to the hospital. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. And then they checked everything, tried medication, vitamins and everything. But it just didn't help. And then I was released and they said, we are sorry, but we don't know what to do anymore. Yesterday, I went to Sofi for the first time. And after the first session, I felt a slight sensation in my feet. The feet got really hot. What I haven't felt for 5.5 years. I couldn't feel if it was cold, warm, hot or anything else. I couldn't feel it at all. I had no sensation of calming down.
How does it feel for you to be able to feel your legs for the first time after such a long time?
I guarantee it. Gigantic, simply beautiful, knowing that they are still there. I am very grateful and happy. I can only recommend it.
Diagnosed with a brain tumor. It was surgically removed from my head a second time. Unfortunately, it couldn't be completely removed the second time. There was a risk of me bleeding out completely. And so a piece was left. After the surgery, I was advised to undergo radiation therapy, which I initially refused after hearing from the suppliers. I heard about side effects. Yes, I've been here since February 23, almost 8 months, and then a huge success. During a follow-up, they wanted to see if the tumor had grown back, if they needed to operate again or something like that. And then really great news that they can't find a tumor anymore and there's only a scar left.
For years I worked under nighttime breathing pauses. And it was so bad that I was constantly sleepy during the day. I even nodded off while driving. It was really dangerous, and so the doctors prescribed an oxygen mask with a device, and I had to wear it every night. Put the mask on at night, so that I could get enough oxygen. I was not so tired after this session in the evening. I'm lying in my bed and I put this device on again. I somehow noticed that with the device I got significantly less air than before. It felt like a foreign object. Couldn't stand it any longer. I took off the device, took off the mask, and I have slept well without a mask, and since then I don't need this device anymore. I no longer have that severe fatigue. And then I used the device again, gave it back to the doctor, and he couldn't believe it because he said such things don't usually heal on their own without. So my life would probably have turned out quite differently, and not just my life. I speak for my whole family. She is the key to happiness in our family.
I was actually going blind, but with Sofi's treatment we managed to save my sight in time, that I have retained my eyesight, and that my eyes even again have gotten much better again. So, not worse, but better vision. Anna has developed very well. Many doctors we met later who knew Anna as a baby said, no, that can't possibly be true. So we would not have predicted that with her medical condition from back then. Not at all that she can do what she can today. Sofi has personally proven to me that there is something to what I said. That's it. I don't believe it. I'm a scientist myself. I believe in things that I can prove. That's why I was very skeptical, but learned that you don't have to be able to prove everything. There are things that are just the way they are. I can personally, or we can live well with that today.
The first time I came here, because I had lost children, so we had a daughter, or have a daughter, and I was pregnant and had twins, but then I unfortunately lost them, and the doctors couldn't explain it at first. They had to do various tests, and then we found out that I have a blood clotting disorder and that the blood doesn't flow well. The blood is just too thick, so it would be difficult for future pregnancies. First you would have to get medication, but what that means for the unborn, they wouldn't know yet. And then I felt very bad at that time. At the same time, my father had a show about Miss Sofi, watching TV, and they talked about her many, many healing successes. Everyone talked about how they were helped, including serious illnesses, including cancer, stories, but also psychological suffering. So the people back then were very, very enthusiastic. And then my father said, if this isn't something, I should come here. Then the woman, Sophie, said to my husband, what would you like to have, a boy or a girl? My husband said, we have a girl now. Yes, we want that too. He's 12 years old now, and everything went really well. Even if we have something with the kids now, if something can always bring me here, always help, doctors, addiction. I barely search for it at all. Kids, when we have something, like recently they had another corona infection, then Miss Sophie also did remote treatments and everything went wonderfully. And we will see each other, always content and always thankful that we came here. Subtitles by Stephanie Geiges.
Praise of wisdom. Wisdom praises itself.
That's me. Sophie is wisdom, and I praise him.
She boasts to her people. This is my dog. She opens her mouth in the Hassan logo and call her up. Bones before.
Miss Sofi has been working as a healer for over 35 years, and the incredibly amazing thing is that she does it every day. Is there anyone else who can claim to have worked continuously for 35 years? Well, she sees herself as a tool of God and feels her responsibility to always be there for those seeking help. For 35 years, 2 sessions have been held daily at her home in Venlo, Netherlands. So really every day, even on Sundays, even on her birthday, at Christmas, New Year's, Easter. She hasn't attended the birthdays of her siblings living in Israel, or their children for 35 years. Didn't attend countless weddings or funerals, because she must always be there and is there as God's tool for those seeking help. Feel free to call on a Sunday or holiday and see for yourself that someone will still answer the phone. You can reach Healer Sofi by phone, email or WhatsApp. To call, dial the 0. 49 211 239 226140. Please send an email to info@sofi.de and send it on WhatsApp to 0049 175 35 21787. And now, the address of your house, where the meetings take place. Stalbergweg 285 in 5913 DUP Venlo, Netherlands.